My childhood sweetheart fell for a courtesan, spending his days entangled with her. Unable to bear seeing him stray, I informed his father. He was forcibly sent to the frontier for discipline. 3 years later, he returned triumphant, having become the most valiant young general. Yet he framed my father for embezzlement, imprisoning our entire family, and ordered beggars to rape and kill me. Back then, you accused me and Yun Yang to my father, tearing us apart and causing me unbearable pain. Today, it's your turn to taste that agony. When I awoke again, I happened upon the two of them in a tryst. This time, I would not stop him and Yun Yang. I only wished they would cling to each other day after day, never wanting to part. Later, when the general's mansion faced ruin because of its only son's recklessness, he came to my door, weeping and blaming me for not stopping him back then. I died in the filthiest corner of the prison cell, tortured to death by Shen in the most vile manner. 3 days prior, Shen framed my father for embezzlement, and our entire family was thrown into prison. Before the truth could be uncovered, Shen summoned dozens of beggars who raped me in this very cell. They came every single day, torturing me until I died. As I lay dying, I demanded, "Why did you do this to me?" I couldn't understand. Wasn't he my childhood sweetheart, the neighbor boy? We grew up together, and our families had always been close. When he went to war with his father, I cared for his mother and prayed for their safe return. Yet when he returned victorious, his archery skills celebrated, his first arrow struck me. Blood tears streaming, I stared at him, demanding answers even in death. Shen, why? Shen Yan's face darkened. Gone was the warmth he'd once shown me in youth, replaced entirely by hatred. Jiang Yao, this is what you owe us. Back then, you reported me and Yun Yang to my father. Because of you, I was forced apart from Yun Yang. I was sent to the frontier, while she was taken as a concubine by some old man. If not for you, I would have married her upon my triumphant return. Now, it's impossible. So it was all because of that youthful indiscretion. All these years, he never forgot Yun Yang, and held this grudge against me for so long. Jiang Yao, you brought this upon yourself. As my last breath left me, Shen Yan's words echoed in my mind. It was indeed my meddling that brought this upon myself. If I could live again, I would stay far away from Shen and never sink to this wretched state. Miss, the servant said young Master Shen is in the room just ahead. That Shen fellow is so dissolute and lacking in manners. How could he consort with a courtesan? We must report this to General Shen immediately and see he's punished properly. Otherwise, if you marry him in the future, you'll surely suffer. Tanger's voice chattered incessantly in my ear. It took me a long while to process it. This was a brothel. I hadn't died after all. I'd returned to the very day I discovered Shen consorting with a courtesan and went to report it to his father. Right now, I was here personally to investigate, having received the message from Shen servant. I stared at the room just a few steps away, the very place where Shen and Yun Yang had been entangled. But this time, I hadn't pushed open the door yet. I hadn't gone to tell his father either. There was still time. Tainer, let's go home. I grabbed the maid's arm and pulled her away, turning to leave immediately. Only when we reached the carriage did my heart finally settle somewhat. Miss, why did you drag me away? Weren't we going to confront young Master Shen? Tainer, whom I'd pulled out, was utterly confused. I replied coldly, we won't. From now on, his affairs are none of my concern. Not only none of my concern, I intended to avoid him as far as possible. Tainer, however, thought I was sulking over Shen and tried to persuade me. Miss, you mustn't be soft-hearted. If young Master Shen doesn't change his bad habits, once you marry him. Tainer! My sharp rebuke cut her off mid-sentence. She flinched at my tone. My heart ached for her, but my resolve remained unshaken. There were things I had to make crystal clear to her today. I refused to repeat the mistakes of my past life, mistakes that had ruined not only myself but my entire family. Tainer, Shen and I have no betrothal. There was no parental decree, no matchmaker's words. Only a passing jest between our parents, nothing binding. If I ever marry him, you must never speak of it again. And regarding today's incident, you must not utter a single word about it once we return. Whatever Shen Yan does is his own affair, it has nothing to do with me. I sternly admonished Tanger, severing all ties with Shen Yan. Seeing my complete departure from my previous demeanor, Tanger couldn't accept my sudden change and asked in confusion, "But miss, don't you have feelings for young Master Shen? Why are you saying this?" "Yes, I do like Shen Yan. Having grown up together as childhood sweethearts, and with both families often discussing marriage between us, I had always assumed I would marry him. So naturally, I harbored feelings for this carefree, dashing young man. In my past life, when I heard he was consorting with courtesans, I rushed here impatiently, desperate to persuade him to stop before it was too late. Seeing my pleas fell on deaf ears, I even informed his father, all for his own good, hoping he wouldn't ruin his entire life. Later, when he was sent to the frontier, I stayed behind to care for his mother, hoping he could find peace far from home. But what I thought was for his good, in his eyes, was the ruin of his lifelong bond with Yunyang. So when he returned in splendid armor, triumphant and renowned, the first thing he did was kill me, to mourn the love he'd lost. Any lingering feelings I had for him vanished completely the day he humiliated me. I never harbored such feelings for him. He was merely a neighbor's elder brother. Besides, do you truly believe a man who chases women is worthy of trust? Tanger, you must never speak such words again. Your young mistress still intends to marry. Understood, young lady. Your servant will never speak of it again. Though Tanger still didn't grasp my transformation, she took my words to heart. That was enough. As night fell, Shen Yan scaled the wall into my courtyard. "Yao Yao, there's something I need your help with." His hesitant expression betrayed his unease. After all, he was still a young man untouched by the world. The moment I saw him, I knew why he'd come. "You want to talk about what happened today, right?" "Rest assured, I won't tell Uncle Shen. When the servant told me, I intended to seek you out. But then I realized this is your own affair. Do as your heart desires, whatever makes you happy is fine. I made it clear I wouldn't tattle or meddle. If things came to light later, he couldn't blame me. As for how things turned out between him and Yunyang, that was entirely his own business, none of mine." Shen Yan seemed taken aback by my understanding, pausing for a moment. After a long while, he smiled and said, "All right, I'll find you some new toys to thank you." "No need. It's getting late. You should head back soon." Shen Yan understood my hint to leave and didn't linger. As he departed, I called after him, "Shen Yan, I've reached the age of maturity. There are boundaries between men and women. Don't climb over my wall again. It's bad for my reputation." Shen Yan stood at the foot of the wall for a long while before finally uttering a single "all right" and walking away. After that, he never climbed over my family's wall again. I never wished to see the man who had killed and disgraced me in my past life ever again. But I also knew I didn't yet have the power to take revenge. Moreover, our families were now bound by generations of friendship, and I currently had no justification for seeking vengeance. I would simply take things one step at a time. The most pressing matter now was my marriage. Everyone knew we were childhood sweethearts. To prevent future complications, I must marry sooner rather than later. 3 days later, while my parents were dining, I casually brought up the topic of marriage, using the excuse of befriending a young lady and preparing for the imperial examinations. Sure enough, my parents immediately inquired, "So, Yao Yao, you're thinking of getting married?" Mother teased with a smile, and I lowered my head shyly. It was enough for them to know about it. I was merely going through the motions. "It is about time. Your father and I must start making proper arrangements for you." At this, father burst into laughter. "Looks like our Yao Yao wants father to remind the Shen family." Very well, very well. Rest assured, Yao Yao. Father will go remind General Shen today that it's time to come propose." "The Shen family?" "Father, your train of thought leaves me speechless." I suddenly grew serious, setting down my chopsticks and bowl. "Father, I will not marry Shen Yan. Please abandon this plan." Before my words had fully faded, father and mother exchanged glances. I knew they must be puzzled. After all, not long ago, I had been clinging to Shen Yan, expressing nothing but satisfaction with him in every word. For a time, I even referred to myself as his betrothed. Looking back now, it was both laughable and pitiful. What? Are you two having a falling out? No, father, mother. Shen Yan is nothing more than a friendly neighbor to me. Besides, he is no suitable match. Your daughter will never marry a man who frequents brothels. What? To put an end to their hopes, I had no choice but to speak the truth. My parents placed utmost importance on propriety and honor. With Shen Yan's behavior, he'd never set foot in our home again. After hearing my explanation, Mother was furious. How could Shen Yan not learn to behave? He's following those dissolute young masters to brothels. My father was even more furious, rising immediately to confront General Shen. I hurriedly tried to dissuade him. It was their own affair, after all, we were outsiders. How could we meddle in another family's private matters? Father, Shen Yan has reached the age of maturity. He can decide many things for himself. Besides, this is the Shen family's private affair. No matter how close our families are, it would be inappropriate for us to intervene. Seeing father's expression soften slightly, I paused before continuing. Overstepping our bounds risks inviting gossip. If Shen Yan doesn't want interference, your actions could easily invite resentment. Yao Yao is right, father. It's best not to meddle in such matters. But old Shen spent his entire life building his reputation. Is he to have it ruined by his own son? Father was filled with regret. After all, Uncle Shen was a heroic and formidable man, and Shen Yan had trained in martial arts since childhood, inheriting his father's spirit. Everyone rejoiced, saying General Shen had a worthy successor. But now? Just thinking about it made father sigh helplessly. Seizing the moment, I took both my parents' arms. Father, mother, seeing this, Shen Yan clearly isn't a suitable match. Could you bear to let me marry him? Of course not. Our Yao Yao deserves the finest man in this world. Just then, my brother returned, dressed in his official robes, his figure handsome and dignified. Seeing my brother so vibrant and alive, my eyes welled up with tears. In my past life, had Shen Yan not intervened, brother would surely have married, raised children, and lived an ordinary, happy life, never ending up in such a state. Sis, what's wrong? Did someone upset you? Was it that Shen family brat? Seeing my tears, brother grew instantly anxious. I shook my head, tears mingling with laughter. I'd intended to make up some excuse, but mother thought I was upset about Shen Yan and blurted out everything about him. Before I could finish, my brother slammed his fist hard on the table. That Shen Yan! I always knew he wasn't good enough for Yao Yao. Now I see it's true. Sis, don't worry. I'll protect you. That Shen family brat won't come near you again. I understood what my brother meant. Not just our family, but the entire capital believed I was meant to marry Shen Yan. Now that he'd frequented a brothel, my reputation would surely suffer. Yet, I couldn't care less. After all, nothing had ever happened between us. There was still time to fix everything. Father and mother comforted me, promising they'd find me a suitable match. Hearing them say they only wished for me to marry a good man and live a happy life. Instantly, memories of my past life flooded back. In that lifetime, my parents and brother had always shielded me with unwavering devotion, only to be dragged down by my actions in the end. Because I failed to see people clearly, because I stubbornly insisted on caring for Shen Yan's mother despite the effort and worry it caused, my entire family met a tragic end. Recalling those scenes from my past life still sends shivers down my spine. Seeing the anxious, concerned expressions on my parents' and brother's faces, I vowed that this lifetime, I would never let anyone hurt them. After that incident, Shen Yan became a taboo topic in our household. But secrets can't stay hidden forever. Even without my reporting it, General Shen learned about Shen Yan and Yu's affair. It was Tanger, ever the busybody, who overheard it on the street. She said General Shen had dragged Shen Yan back from the brothel himself. The scene was utterly embarrassing, everyone present witnessed it. Word spread that General Shen, who never showed emotion, must have been truly furious this time. His old face was utterly disgraced. He brought Shen Yan back to the mansion, whipped him mercilessly, and then locked him away. Hearing this news, I couldn't help but feel a bitter self-mockery. So even without my interference, Shen Yan and Yin Yang's relationship would never have been accepted. It would have been exposed anyway. See, Jiang Yao? In my past life, I truly did meddle in matters that weren't mine. Reaching this conclusion, I shook my head helplessly. Tanger, seeing no sorrow on my face, remained puzzled. Just then, a maid from the front courtyard arrived with news, interrupting her. Miss, Lady Shen has arrived. She requests your presence. At these words, my expression darkened. Lady Shen had treated me well in my past life. Yet when Shen Yan tormented me, she vanished without a trace, never to be seen again. I never knew if Shen Yan had barred her from seeing me or saving me, or if she simply turned a blind eye. In any case, the weight of past grievances had taught me to let certain things go. Out of respect for old ties, refusing to go would only raise suspicion. So I took Tanger and headed to the front courtyard. The moment we entered, I heard Lady Shen sobbing. Her son, raised with such effort, had failed her, consorting with a courtesan. Who wouldn't be heartbroken? Madame Jiang, why must Yenner be so infatuated with that courtesan? If only he were with Yao Yao. I had already stepped inside, but hearing Lady Shen's words, I regretted it. Just as I was about to retreat, she spotted me. Yao Yao. Mrs. Shen, abandoning all decorum, rushed straight to me and grasped my hand in agitation. Yao Yao, please try to persuade Yan Yan for me. You two were always closest. I believe he'll listen to you. I surmised Mrs. Shen had been pleading with Shen Yan relentlessly these past days. But in my past life, he had killed my entire family for you's sake. Such deep affection, how could it be swayed by a few words from Mrs. Shen? And certainly not by me. I offered a gentle smile, gently removing Mrs. Shen's hand from my arm, and curtsied. Mrs. Shen, there are proper boundaries between men and women. It would be inappropriate for me to intervene. My tactful refusal failed to raise any suspicion in Lady Shen. Instead, a hint of amusement flickered in her eyes as she took my hand again. Yao Yao, rest assured. Yenner is destined to marry you. You are the most suitable choice. He has merely strayed from the path. Once he sees the error of his ways, he will return to the right course. Besides, in my eyes, you are the only one who can be my daughter-in-law. I won't accept anyone else. Madame Shen spoke with such conviction that I naturally believed her words were sincere at that moment. But after experiencing my past life, it was too late for any promises now. Seeing I remained silent, Madame Shen was about to say more when I quickly signaled to my mother. She rose and approached Lady Shen, taking her by the arm to steer the conversation elsewhere. Lady Shen, there's no rush regarding the children's marriage. We should discuss it further in due time. With Lady Shen still grieving, Mother couldn't outright state that Shen Yan and I had no future together. Yet between the lines, her refusal to consider the match was unmistakable. Yet Madame Shen seemed oblivious, continuing to speak kindly to me, trying to soften my heart. Yao Yao, rest assured. When you marry into the Shen family, I will treat you as my own daughter. Should Yan make any further mistakes, I will discipline him properly. Madame Shen spoke for nearly a stick of incense burning, and I truly couldn't bear to listen any longer. I exchanged another glance with my mother. This time, without waiting for her reaction, I took a step back. Madame Shen, to be perfectly honest, Shen Yan and I are nothing more than brother and sister. My decisive words left Madame Shen frozen in place. My mother understood my feelings and had intended to spare Madame Shen's dignity. But Mrs. Shen's earlier words seemed to assume she wanted me as her daughter-in-law. Recalling Shen Yan's womanizing ways, even my mother couldn't sit still. Mrs. Shen, I actually wanted to tell you earlier, Yao Yao and Yenner are like brother and sister. Moreover, our Jiang family has already found a suitable match for Yao Yao. In the future, Madame Shen, please refrain from mentioning such playful notions of marrying the two children. Mother smiled as she smoothed things over, though her words clearly favored me. Thankfully, my entire family stood by me. Madame Shen looked at me in disbelief, then at my mother. Her sorrowful face instantly grew even more somber and lifeless. I think she understood. After that, Lady Shen had little heart for further conversation. She exchanged a few polite words before leaving, overcome with sorrow. Yet as she departed, she turned to look at me one last time. Yenner brought this upon himself. He simply wasn't destined for such happiness. From that day onward, the Shen family's affairs spread like wildfire throughout the capital. Shen Yan truly loved Yue deeply. To be with her, he defied General Shen's arrangements even when beaten by the general himself. Even when beaten by General Shen, he would flee after each beating, only to seek out Yunyang again. Had I not died unjustly because of their deep affection, I would have applauded their devotion. It was said General Shen aged considerably overnight over Shen Yan's affair, his temples suddenly streaked with white hair. While Shen's parents agonized over the situation, my own parents began arranging my marriage. Perhaps fearing Lady Shen still harbored hopes of marrying me off to Shen Yan, and also believing that delay invites trouble, they diligently searched and found a man they deemed worthy of me. This man was Gu Yuan, the newly crowned top scholar. Though his family background was modest, he possessed great talent and ability, promising a bright future. When my brother heard father ask for my opinion, he chattered incessantly beside me. "Sister, this man is truly excellent. I've interacted with him before. If you were to marry him, it would be a splendid choice, infinitely superior to that Shen Yan." Though I hadn't seen Shen Yan in ages, whenever his name came up, my brother and parents still couldn't help but bristle with anger. I had long since accepted my marriage arrangements. "Very well, then. Let it be as you wish. Then I'll arrange a meeting for you." Huh? His words genuinely shocked me. Hadn't he always been most concerned about me seeing Shen Yan? Always talking about the strict separation between men and women. Yao Yao, though I've always emphasized the importance of gender boundaries, your marriage must be something you truly desire. Go meet him first, then decide. But this Gu Yuan is quite sought after among the capital's young women. Many noble families' daughters wish to marry him. What else could I say? My parents and brother had chosen him. Naturally, they believed he was the best match. So I resolved to find an opportunity to meet this Gu Yuan. But before I could even plan it, Gu Yuan had already asked me out. It must have been my brother arranging this. He must be quite pleased with Gu Yuan to move so swiftly. Gu Yuan invited me to view the flowers. In the gardens of the western suburbs, I saw for the first time this man who had made such a name for himself as the top scholar in the imperial examinations in my previous life. We'd never met in my past life, yet his name was familiar. Young and accomplished, a rising star among the youth, the ideal husband sought by noble ladies. All claimed he was heaven's chosen top scholar, praised for both his talent and good looks. I'd once thought such talk exaggerated, but now I see it was understated. Not only was he handsome, but his words and manners truly won my heart. So beyond Shen Yan, this world holds so many fine young men. At this thought, I smiled wryly. In my past life, my world revolved solely around Shen Yan. How much I must have missed. Miss Jiang, why the smile? Nothing. Just reminiscing about some old memories. When you meet the right person, even simple conversation flows effortlessly. It was only when Tanger noticed the late hour and asked when I planned to return that I realized it was already the 7th hour. "Mr. Gu, it's getting late. You should head back." "Very well. I'll escort you back." I accepted Gu Yuan's offer without hesitation, though I hadn't anticipated our carriage being blocked on the return journey. Just as I was about to ask Tanger what had happened, Shen Yan's voice reached my ears. "Father, I've told you before, this life, I will only be with Yue. If you refuse to consent, then consider me no longer your son." You. General Shen was so enraged he could barely form coherent words. The surrounding crowd murmured, and I pieced together the situation. It turned out Shen Yan had sneaked out to meet Yumi. General Shen discovered this and immediately came to apprehend him. But Shen Yan was stubborn as a mule, refusing to heed his father's words and vowing to marry Yumi no matter what. General Shen was beside himself with rage, and so the father and son began bickering right there on the street. I peeked through the carriage curtain to watch the spectacle, just in time to see General Shen pointing angrily at Shen Yan. "Let me make this clear, I will never allow you to marry a courtesan." "Then let me make this clear, I will marry no one but Yunyang in this lifetime." Father and son were on the verge of coming to blows over Yunyang. Standing beside Shen Yan, Yun tugged delicately at his sleeve. Shen Lang, please stop arguing with the general. Let's go home. I'm fine. Don't quarrel with the general over me. Her soft voice instantly made Shen Yan's heart ache unbearably. Watching Yun's affected performance through the crowd, I felt a wave of disgust wash over me. But she wasn't done yet. She turned to look at General Shen. General, it's all my fault. Rest assured, I don't seek to enter your household. I only wish to stay by Shen Yan's side. I beg you to grant me this favor. With that, Yun knelt directly before General Shen. Shen Yan immediately pulled her into his embrace. Before General Shen could speak, he poured out his loyalty to Yun. Father, if you forbid me from marrying Yun, I can only sever ties with you. Watching Shen Yan and Yun's deep affection, my heart sank, my expression turning icy cold. Fool! I had thought that without my interference, even if General Shen refused, it wouldn't escalate to the point of becoming public knowledge like in my past life. Who would have thought that even without me, even without Shen Yan going to the frontier, the Shen family would still become a laughingstock? As I watched this scene unfold with icy detachment, I sensed a gaze settling upon me from the side. I turned my head and met Gu Yuan's scrutinizing eyes. I returned his gaze with a smile. Gu Yuan's expression remained composed, though his words carried a hint of probing. Are you angry? Angry? Why should I be angry? I know you and Shen Yan grew up together. You were meant to marry him. Now he's entangled with a courtesan, it's a betrayal of you. Anger is only natural. Gu Yuan was refreshingly candid. He didn't shy away from discussing my past with Shen Yan. My brother must have explained everything clearly. Since he was both intelligent and straightforward, I felt it only right to be equally open with someone like him. Mr. Gu, I'm not angry. My feelings for Shen Yan have long faded. Otherwise, why would I be out admiring flowers with you? Faced with my counter-question, Gu Yuan seemed momentarily taken aback. I wasn't one to drag my feet. Gu Yuan truly lived up to my brother's description, a fine man, a top scholar as handsome as Panin. Naturally, I was moved. Now that Shen Yan's matter was out in the open, I wanted to probe his true intentions. Might I ask, young Master Gu, have you no interest in me? Is this merely a pretext? No. Gu Yuan hadn't expected such directness from me, and his face flushed crimson. Miss Jiang, you overthink things. We exchanged glances, each catching a shy smile in the other's eyes before hastily averting our gazes. Later, as the onlookers dispersed, Gu Yuan ordered the carriage to take me home. Just as I was about to enter the gate, he called out to me. Miss Jiang. I shall formally propose marriage at your residence in due course. Gu Yuan gave me no chance to respond. Before his words had fully faded, he was already gone. Watching the carefree top scholar depart, I thought he was ultimately a better match for me than Shen Yan. After that day, the Jiang family tacitly allowed Gu Yuan to send me small tokens meant to charm a young lady. Seeing how I accepted every gift without hesitation and seemed genuinely pleased, Tanga realized my relationship with Shen Yan was truly over. She stopped holding back when speaking ill of him in my presence. Tanga revealed that Shen Yan had clashed with the Shen family for so long that when it truly came to severing their father-son bond, it was the old General Shen who ultimately yielded. Shen's father agreed to let Yuer enter the family for two reasons, Shen Yan's persistent agitation, and Yuer's pregnancy. A family as bound by propriety as the Shens couldn't possibly refuse. However, you could only be a concubine, and Shen Yan still intended to take a legitimate wife. Hearing this news, I felt pity for the woman destined to marry him. But none of this concerned me. I would never meddle in others' affairs again. Such were the paths of fate. After all, my own Gu Yuan had come to propose. Watching Gu Yuan discuss the wedding date with my father in the main hall, I smiled with resignation. Yet, just as I prepared for my wedding, a letter arrived from Shen Yan's servant. He requested we meet at the tea house. Furrowing my brow as I held the letter, I wondered what he could possibly want. Still, I went. I wanted to see what mischief he might stir now that he'd gotten his wish. When I arrived, Shen Yan had been waiting for quite some time. The moment he saw me, Shen Yan abruptly stood up. Yao, I'm sorry. I've wronged you. He looked at me with such remorse that I instantly felt a sense of unease. Between us, what wrong has been done? I know we had no formal betrothal, but our marriage was tacitly accepted by all. My entanglement with Yun Yang made you a laughingstock. That was my fault. Facing Shen Yan's apology, my hands clenched into fists without my noticing. So, Shen Yan, you knew all along, didn't you? You knew your affair with Yun Yang caused me trouble. You knew that when your scandal with that courtesan erupted, I became a laughingstock too. I cut him off coldly. Shen Yan, there was never anything between us to begin with. No betrothal, no ties. What others think is their business. You needn't apologize. Our relationship was merely a joke among elders. Why dwell on it? Besides, I never harbored any feelings for you. Shen Yan, do you realize that these mockeries pale in comparison to the eternal torment you've already inflicted upon me? Their ridicule doesn't even merit my contempt. My hatred has always been directed at him. Yao Yao. Shen Yan opened his mouth, yet no words emerged. Shen Yan, congratulations on your wedding. May you find happiness with the woman you love. This time, I won't stop you. Let's see if your wishes truly come to pass. Shen Yan, what you owe me must be repaid. I'll be waiting to see what becomes of you. Seeing how distant I'd grown, he found no reason to linger. He offered another apology before preparing to leave. Watching his retreating figure, I offered a faint smile and said, I'm getting married next month. You should come raise a glass to my happiness. Shen Yan, who had been facing away from me, halted abruptly. After a long pause, he replied, all right. Then he hurriedly departed. The moment he left, I turned my gaze toward the screen. Aren't you coming out yet? A moment later, Gu Yuan emerged, looking somewhat aggrieved. When he learned Shen Yan had summoned me today, he'd flown into a rage, insisting on accompanying me. That fool, does he even realize what he's lost? A treasure beyond compare. Gu Yuan's anger grew with each word, clasping my hand ever so gently, afraid to hurt me. Our Yao Yao is a pearl. How dare Shen Yan try to pass himself off as something else? He deserves to marry a courtesan. How dare he compare you to that woman? It's an outright insult. Yao Yao, this treasure now belongs to me. Will you spend the rest of your life with me? Gu Yuan's words touched me, yet they also made me feel incredibly uncomfortable. No matter how I heard it, it sounded like I'd been involved with Shen Yan, and he'd abandoned me. Today, I must set the record straight with him. Gu Yuan. What is it? I looked at him with utmost seriousness. This is the last time I'll tell you, Shen Yan and I have absolutely nothing going on. You're the one I love. You're the one I want to marry. Are you finally ready to accept my true feelings? Over time, I've come to realize Gu Yuan is truly a treasure, kind, with a great personality, and seemingly without flaws. I always believed no one was perfect, but I admit I was wrong. Gu Yuan is perfect. When he blinked his eyes shyly at me, I smiled gently. Get ready to marry me next month. At that moment, Gu Yuan finally reacted. He pulled me into his arms, his whole body trembling. I knew he was far more excited than I was. Yao Yao, I will never betray you in this lifetime. Good. Later, when Shen Yan held his grand wedding, I did not attend. I was busy preparing for my own wedding with Gu Yuan. After all, marrying someone I loved and who loved me back, I put my heart into it. But unexpectedly, Shen Yan began to show up in my life again. He remained utterly oblivious that to me, he was an enemy, a man I wished to kill. Now, with the moon high in the sky, he scaled the wall and entered my courtyard. As before, he moved as if no one else existed, sipping tea and chatting casually with me. Yao Yao, do you know? I'm so tired. I never imagined Yun Yang would become like this. She wasn't always this way. Why do you think that is? She used to be so gentle, always putting me first. But now she's turned the entire Shen household upside down. Mother spared her because she was pregnant, yet she hurt Mother without restraint. Now Mother is utterly exhausted, both physically and mentally, and has completely stopped caring for me. Father and Mother seem to have truly given up on me. My wife had barely entered the household when Yunyang started picking fights. At first, I thought it was my wife's fault, but later I realized it was all Yunyang's jealousy. Yao Yao, what should I do? You know, I'm really exhausted right now. Shen Yan rambled on endlessly. I tried to interrupt midway, but he was so engrossed in his own words that he never gave me the chance. When he finally finished and looked at me, seeking comfort, I only gave him a cold smile. Now you know it's a headache? Where were you earlier? Shen Yan, have you forgotten? Every single one of these choices was yours. Fed up with his endless whining, I cut him off. Shen Yan, is this how the Shen family raised you? Have you no sense of propriety? Do you even know what time it is? Do you know where we are? Do you have any idea how much trouble you're causing me by recklessly scaling walls to find me? Faced with my relentless questioning, Shen Yan fell silent. After a long pause, he stammered out a reply. Yao Yao, I'm sorry. I just wanted to come find some peace and quiet with you. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Shen Yan, you chose this path yourself. You fought tooth and nail for Yunyang. Shouldn't you bear the consequences? I felt no sympathy, only intense disgust at his presence. If Shen Yan wasn't foolish, he'd surely see my displeasure. Frowning, I met his stunned gaze. Shen Yan, your family affairs are none of my concern. Stop climbing over walls. If it happens again, I'll have my brother beat you out. Yao Yao, are you still blaming me? Blaming you? Shen Yan, you're too full of yourself. I just treat you like a stranger. Do you think I'd willingly let a stranger into my bedroom? Or do you think I'd care about a stranger's affairs? As I spoke these words, Shen Yan only stared at me. His gaze grew increasingly sorrowful until finally, he hung his head, saying nothing. Watching him leave in desolation, I felt surprisingly elated. Shen Yan, you deserve every bit of this. You should bear it all. If you knew this was all gained by stepping over the corpses of our family, how would you feel? Tanger pushed open the door and noticed the extra teacup on the table, looking puzzled. Young lady, did the groom come by? It was Shen Yan. From now on, pretend you don't know him when you see him. Understood. After instructing Tanger, I fell into a deep sleep. These past days had been consumed by wedding preparations, leaving me utterly exhausted. Even though Shen Yan's arrival made me feel sick, it didn't affect me much. After all, he's having a rough time now. To me, it's all just karma, and I can finally rest easy. As the wedding date with Gu Yuan approached, he came to see me secretly and gave me a hairpin. Yao Yao, tomorrow is our wedding day. I'm a little excited. Watching Minister Gu orchestrate affairs in the imperial court, I couldn't help but smile. My brother had spoken of Gu Yuan's decisive actions in the court. He said his resolute conduct earned the praise of both the emperor and the ministers. You wouldn't know it, but the humble gentleman before you is actually a ruthless and decisive minister. His demeanor before me was utterly different from how he presented himself to others. My brother once told me earnestly, Gu Yuan truly loves you. Indeed, having lived 2 lifetimes, I, Jiang Yao, have finally met a worthy partner. After seeing Gu Yuan off, I gazed at my phoenix crown and bridal robes, lost in thought. Suddenly, a sound behind me made me instinctively frown. Turning around, I saw Shen Yan standing inside the room. Today, he looked utterly haggard, as if life had worn away his sharp edges. Shen Yan glanced at my phoenix crown and bridal robes, offering a self-mocking smile. Yao Yao, you're about to marry. I shouldn't have come, but there are things I only want to tell you. Mother and Lady Rong had a terrible fight. Mother lost the baby, and she's fallen ill from the shock. The entire Shen household is in chaos now. Yao Yao, do you think heaven is punishing me? And then? I stared at him coldly. His expression faltered, then he looked at me with anguish. Yao Yao, I regret it. Regret? Shen Yan, what are you regretting now? Wasn't this life your own choice? What right do you have to say you regret it now? Yao Yao, why didn't you try to stop me when you went to the brothel that day? Why didn't you come and drag me back? Shen Yan's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at me, his tone brimming with accusation. How dare he question why I didn't do that? Shen Yan, I did try to dissuade you in my past life. What did I get in return? My earnest pleas didn't bring you good fortune, they only led to my tragic death at your hands. I replied coldly, Shen Yan, you sowed the seeds. Now you must reap the consequences. It was you who wanted to be with Yu's mother. You chose to frequent the brothel with her. You chose to marry her. What does any of this have to do with me? Shen Yan was rendered speechless by my counter-question. That's just the kind of person he is. No matter the outcome, if it's bad, he'll blame others. In my past life, I tried to warn him, yet he blamed me. In this life, I ignored him, yet he still blamed me. Ultimately, he was selfish and cowardly, unable to bear even the slightest adverse outcome. Mr. Shen, please leave. I opened the door and issued my order to depart. Then, turning to the maidservant in the courtyard, I commanded coldly, the Jiang household keeps no idle hands. Should any unauthorized persons enter henceforth, you shall be held accountable. Shen Yan, seeing my resolve, had no choice but to depart. Yet, unwilling to accept defeat, he turned back to ask, Yao Yao, if I hadn't gone to the brothel, if I hadn't married Yunyang, would you have married me? Would everything now be different? He was utterly repulsive. Thinking of his cruelty in the past life and his cowardice in this one, I felt equally sickened. Shen Yan, do you understand that life offers no what-ifs? Even if it did, I would never marry you. Give up that notion. After sending Shen Yan away, I felt a sense of relief. Perhaps meddling in others' affairs led to my downfall in my past life. This life, then, must be heaven's chance for me to start anew. As for Shen Yan, even without my vengeance, he would reap what he sowed. Tanger mentioned that Shen Yan's reputation had been utterly ruined by Yunyang, and no one in the capital dared associate with him. For the Shen family, who valued such things, this punishment must be devastating for Shen Yan. The next day, Gu Yuan and I were married. 10 miles of red bridal processions filled the capital with festive cheer. I was married in splendor, carried into the Gu residence in an 8-man palanquin. In the bridal chamber, seeing the food Gu Yuan had prepared for me, I thought, this lifetime, I've finally found my own happiness. My days were filled with contentment. Gu Yuan's kindness had completely dissolved the bitterness in my heart. One ordinary morning, I had just finished breakfast and was admiring the flowers in the courtyard when I saw Gu Yuan returning from court, his expression grave. Has something happened? Now that Gu Yuan was a favored figure before the emperor, I feared his prominence might invite schemes against him. Yet he merely shook his head. Shen Yan is dead. Dead? Shen Yan, this is the life you chose without me. Are you satisfied? Memories of my past life flashed before my eyes, yet I harbored no regrets for this lifetime. Gu Yuan explained that after suffering a miscarriage, Lady Yu harbored resentment toward Shen Yan and his wife, ultimately poisoning them to death. The matter had reached the emperor's ears. He punished the Shen family. Lady Yu was sentenced to decapitation, while the Shen clan was exiled to remote territories, their fortune utterly ruined. I froze. Shen Yan, the man I had loved recklessly in both lifetimes, had ultimately killed him. How ironic. Husband, do you think all matters in this world are bound by cause and effect? This was the consequence Shen Yan sowed himself. He reaped what he had sown. I calmly pushed the tea toward Gu Yuan and took his hand. Husband, I'm with child. Gu Yuan had just lifted his teacup. Before he could take a sip, he froze in place. After a long moment, he stared at me in disbelief, then cautiously approached and pulled me into his arms. My dear, you've endured so much. Gu Yuan wept, clinging to me like a child. My dear, what name shall we give our child? I think a girl would be lovely, beautiful and kind like you. A boy wouldn't be bad either, to protect you alongside me. I watched the first snowfall outside the door, listening to Gu Yuan's soft, contented murmurs. I smiled, a smile brimming with happiness. I knew my sowing had borne the finest fruit. The end.